Alright people, it's Jay here with findyourcrazy.org, a full-time family of 9 living in a fifth wheel RV traveling the country to see every national park. Here with another quick upgrade. As we've been living in the RV for some time now, we're starting to realize that there's some certain things that we want to tweak and fix. And one of the things that we found that we've also found out, unfortunately, is pretty common to most RVs is a little bit of stink under the sink. It's not black tanks, it's the gray tanks coming back up through the P-traps or the anti-siphon valves up underneath the sink, and it can be pretty stinky. And so today I'm going to go through and replace all of the sink P-traps with something called a HEPVO valve. It's not odor from our black tanks, it's odor from our gray tank. Hey guys, it's me from the future. Well, not your future, that'd be weird. His future. This is about 3 months after the initial install, and I'm going to come back at the end of the video and give you an update on how well it's all gone. So let's get back to him, and you stay tuned to the end of the video to see how it happened. Hey Professor, did you get that flux capacitor fixed yet? Tank that's coming back up through all 3 of our sinks. So we have a half bath in the back, the kitchen sink, and then the master of the full bath on the front. And we were getting some odor from all of them, especially those in the back of the rig. And so when I started looking into what was causing that, obviously it's gas from the tanks is getting back up under the sink and into the RV. That shouldn't happen. There are 2 things that are in place to prevent that, but unfortunately neither one of them work very well. So here's a picture of under our master bathroom sink. Now, since it's really difficult to get a camera under a sink while I'm under it as well, I just took the thing out. So here it is out. These are all the pieces. This is called a P-trap. And so this is the first thing that's supposed to prevent that odor from getting back up in. This is just like what's in your home. This P-trap fills up with water to about here, and then that acts as a valve, not allowing gas to get back up through the sink into the house. Now, the one thing that the RV has that your home doesn't is because this is not going into a sewage tank, this is going into your tank, a closed tank underneath your RV, there's an anti-siphon valve. This is basically just a little rubber gasket inside of a spring-loaded valve, and it sits up here. There's a pipe going up, and this sits up, and this is supposed to let air out into the tank as you're draining it, but not let it out back into the cavity under the sink. So the problem with these is both of them are apt to fail. The P-trap, first, if you've let your camper sit in storage for a while, this water can evaporate, and then it's just gone. The second thing is if you travel a lot like we are traveling every few days, as the camper sloshes back and forth, the water will slosh out, go out, and then you're done as well. The other thing is this, and when I got to looking under ours, I think this was the culprit in ours. The spring can get displaced inside of it, which was the problem with ours. The spring had completely popped out, and there can also be debris that gets caught in that rubber valve gasket up under membrane that's up underneath there, and so these 2 pieces are supposed to prevent that, but they just don't work very well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do actually a pretty quick fix that's going to eliminate both of these. We're going to install a HEPVO valve. This is a one-way valve that eliminates the need for both of those other pieces, and so it's going to be a lot more reliable, and the good thing is if you put it in right, it's actually going to free up some very valuable space under your sink. So I got this guy off of Amazon. They were about $26 when I ordered them. It comes with 3 pieces. You've got the actual valve itself, and then you've got 2 connector pieces. A connector that's straight, or you can put on, actually it was on this end, the 90-degree on if you need it. These valves come in 2 sizes. There's an 1.5 inches and an 1.25 inches. I got all 1.5 inches. As you can see on there, there's really no difference in the valve. The difference is in this one connector piece. And I got all 1.5 inches, and I'll show you why in just a second as we talk through it. The way that this valve works is inside of this pipe is basically a plastic tube that is open on one end and closed on the other. So it is one way. There's actually an arrow on here showing you which way it's got to install, because it's a one-way valve, so the water goes this way but nothing can come back. And as you can see, the membrane is open on that end, the tube is open on that end, but on the other end it's flat, it's closed. And so you can see in there that as things go through, the air and the gas and the stink in this case can't get back. Alright, so what you're going to do is you want to replace everything from the sink to the waste pipe that's going down to your tank. You want to replace all of that with the HEPVO valve. Now, the great thing about this valve is it actually can be installed horizontally or vertically. It doesn't matter, which is great, because then you can map out the piping the best possible way for you to regain the most space under that sink. So here's what I did. Basically, I measured what it was going to be, the length from the sink to the waste pipe, and then I took a picture of it and I headed off to my local fix-it store, which for me is always Home Depot. And so what I did was I went in and I took my picture and I basically just laid out in my cart the pieces that I would need. And so I would go through and find out, okay, I'm going to need this, then I'm going to need this piece, and once I got it laid out in the cart, those are the pieces that I bought. And so I have a whole stack of stuff over here so that I can get all three of my sinks done. Now, you wouldn't need any tools to do this if it wasn't for one connection. So this pipe coming out of your sink is actually 1.25 inches. Everything else is 1.5 inches. But then this pipe, the actual waste pipe, is 1.5 inches, but it's not the threads, it's the actual pipe. And so you have to have a connector to get from this threaded piece onto your pipe. It looks like this. So let's turn this around, let's pretend that I'd cut that off. This actually goes on the end of that. Well, obviously you've got to have some tools to do that, but you don't have to have many. All you need is a little hand hacksaw. My blades happen to be dull, so I just bought some new blades for mine. You need a little bit of sandpaper, because once you cut that off, as you can tell, there's quite a few little burrs and spurs and rough spots, and so you have to sand that down so it's smooth. And then finally, you're just going to need some cement to put it on, to basically glue those two pieces together so that it's tight, and then you're good to go. So let's look at the layout for I'm going to do the master bathroom sink first, because it's pretty much the simplest, and then I'll show you what that layout is. So let's look at the layout for that. Alright, so this is the layout for underneath the sink. So the sink is here. This is coming out of the sink. Here's the HEPVO valve. These pieces all came together in the kit. And then basically all I needed was these two extra pieces. And so this is the piece that's going to glue onto the waste pipe. And then this is going to connect these two pieces. And then here's why I bought all 1.5 inches on the HEPVO, is because even though this is 1.25 inches, you probably already have the adapter piece because of going to your regular P-trap. And so this piece on the HEPVO I don't need anymore. And these will connect there, there, and there. And then we're good to go. Alright, there it is, all the pieces, and I'm going to turn the water on and see if we have any leaks. Alright, we're looking good. On to the next one. Alright, so this is the setup for the half bath in the bunkhouse. So you can tell this one is going to be different because the HEPVO is going to be installed in a vertical position instead of a horizontal position. Alright, so obviously this is the tightest space in the entire RV. So I'm not going to be able to really get in here to show you a lot close up, but this is the one that we're going to come over and install. The HEPVO valve will be installed in a vertical position instead of a horizontal position, to be over here in the corner, so it's the most out of the way. So really it's going to be a lot like the last one. Alright, so we're finally done with all three sinks. And in case you're wondering, no, I just did not choose to have a wardrobe change in the middle of the video. Even though I'm not entirely opposed to that, maybe we'll save that for another time. It's actually the next day. The reason is I actually have a curse on me, which hopefully you don't have. And that curse is I cannot complete a project without a second run to Home Depot. Don't know when this curse started. Don't know who put it on me, but it is verifiable and irrefutable that every project I do takes at least one more trip to Home Depot. So if you're watching, can you put the curse on me? Now would be a great time to take it off. I actually got enough parts, like I said, laying everything out in the buggy enabled me to have the right pieces, but there was a 90 on the kitchen sink. Having to bring the two sinks together, you can see here in this picture. I used two 90s to bring them together in the middle. Well, I thought I was going to be able to use one of the existing ones, but when I got here and set them up, the one that I bought was actually shorter, and so they didn't line up. So I had to go back and get two that matched so that they would line up. So you can see in the picture that this was a little bit different run, and because of the angle, I couldn't get any footage of this one. But you can see where I brought them together in the middle, and then the HEPVO valve connects them and goes back. Really, the only difference for this sink that you might find in one of yours is this sink is actually inside of one of our slides, and so rather than connecting to a hard pipe like the rest of them, this connected to a flexible pipe, which obviously allows the slide to move in and out, and so it already had a connector on it, and so I was able to connect one of the threaded ends right into it. So other than that, there was really not a whole lot of difference, and so there it is. Everything done, all three sinks. The HEPVO valves cost me about $75. It cost me about $70 in parts from Home Depot to get everything else that I needed. In total, if you take out the time that I spent moving the camera around and filming, it probably only took about 15 minutes on the master sink, 20 minutes on the half bath sink, and probably about 45 on the kitchen sink altogether, just because of kind of the weird way that I had to run it. And I will say this, I am no plumber. I am just a guy that lives in a camper, and so this is definitely a do-it-yourself project. You do not have to have any experience or understanding. It's a little bit of trial and error. If it doesn't fit together, go get another piece. It's that simple. So like I said, it's been about 3 months since I did that install, and I have to tell you, I give it a 10 out of 10 at this point. Literally, the smell stopped immediately. I mean, the next day you couldn't smell it anymore, and it was kind of a constant thing. Once I got in and did the install, I really figured out that there were a couple of those anti-siphon valves where the springs had broke, and they were basically just leaking air back up into the camper. No more issue with it anymore. It was quick, it was easy. The only issue that I had was under the kitchen sink. There was one connection that wasn't connected really well, and so it had come off and was leaking, and I just reset it, and that has been it. No more upgrades, no more maintenance. It is a 10 out of 10, so I would highly suggest that you take the time to do this upgrade. It is totally worth it. So there you go, and hopefully this fix will work for you to get the stink out from under your sink. Don't forget to follow us on findyourcrazy.org. You can subscribe and see all of our family adventure along with other fix-it videos that I do here upgrading our RV. See you next time.